As we get a little bit older, they might be giving us some pain here or even here. One of the reasons or why that happens often is because we sit too much. So as we sit too much, we degrade, we can maybe get some arthritis, but we certainly, because we're stiff, we're going to be putting extra problems on other joints. So this 15-minute fix is just about how we can open our hips, feel a little bit friskier. So the first pose we're going to do is what's called butterfly pose, which is a very, very easy pose to do, but the effects are super. So I'm more or less in butterfly pose right now, but just to do it, so if you can sit up properly with your legs together and then just bring your feet up so they're flat on the mat or the floor or even on the bed if you like, and then just put your soles together and let your hips just flop out. And you can see directly, mine aren't coming too far, but it doesn't matter. Now, when you've done that, you can slowly but surely come down. And at the same time as you're stretching your hips, you're stretching your lower back. Now, this is butterfly pose. Like all Yin Yoga poses, I'm going to hold this for 3 minutes. But while I do that, I'm going to talk about what the benefits of this pose are. And maybe just look this way. First of all, the benefits of Yin Yoga directly. There are 3 things that you should do with Yin Yoga. I mean, the first and obvious one is that if you feel pain, you shouldn't do it. Just stop. Just find some other way of stretching out your hips, and there's lots of different ways. But the important things are what's called find your edge. So for me, where is my edge? My knees come down about there, but it doesn't matter because I'm feeling the strain in my groin. I can round about here as I push forward. That is about where I'm in a little bit of discomfort, but it's comfortable enough for me to sit here for. And the next point, find the time. I can sit here for 3 minutes. Normally, I would time this using an Apple Watch or my telephone or whatever, but right now I'm filming through the phone, so I'm just using an analog watch to time my 3 minutes. So what I'm doing with this pose is pretty obvious, but I'm releasing tension here in the groin, I'm releasing tension at the base of the spine, and because I'm bending forward, then I'm also releasing tension, hopefully, along my lumbar vertebrae, the vertebrae at the bottom of your back that just move up. Lovely, lovely, lovely exercise to do. Now, it may be that you're thinking, well, wait a minute, I can't get down this far. What can I do? Well, there are 2 things. You can either use a yoga block, which you may well not have at home, but if you have a block at home, or even a big cushion or bolster, which you probably do have at home. If you don't have a bolster, you probably have a big cushion. So simply sit on the block. And then it's so much more easy to bring your feet up, let your legs go apart, bring your arms down, and then I can move from here. And I'll actually feel this a little bit more in my groins, which is going to do me good. So the whole point about this again is I'm stretching the groin areas of my body and opening the hips. And when my 3 minutes are up, which I'm guessing there will be, then I can come up into sitting, just move off the block if I'm sitting in one, remove it, put it somewhere else, bring my knees up. And a nice way to counteract this is to bring your feet to the sides of the mat, touch your knees, and then move from one side to the other, to the other. This is one of the things I love to do. It's called window wipers. And by doing so, again, I'm opening the inside of each hip, the outside of each hip, sorry, as I move each way. And then when you're ready, maybe come down to, on this side, I'm going to go to the left-hand side and use the right arm to push myself back up into sitting. The next pose I'm going to do is called frog pose. Not a pose I enjoy, but again, it really is an excellent hip opener. So to get into frog pose, the easiest way to do it, and I'll show from the front and then I'll show from the back, is come around onto your knees, on your mat, and if you have one, have a nice soft blanket to lie on. Or to put your knees on, or your feet on, sorry. So I'm just going to open up my knees as far as they go, and in my case, that's about it. I'm going to move my feet to the side, and then I'm going to push backwards, and there is where I'm feeling my edge. And again, I'm going to stay here for 3 minutes. So to start to time that 3 minutes from now, and let's see how I get, but I can feel it directly. So if I show from the other side, if you have a nice blanket, open up the blanket, move the bolster, move the block out of the way, and then feet either side. So moving out, my knees on the mat, and from here pushing back. Oh, Yep. So moving my mat back. Actually, just throw it out the way for the time being. Now, the longer I stay in this pose, the easier it becomes. The third point about Yin Yoga is what's called find stillness. So now I'm in the pose. The longer I stay in it, the more my hips release. The more I can gently, millimeter for millimeter, push back. And it's just that pushing back that I can feel it's opening my hips more and more and more. The more I can open them just gently, the more mobility I'm going to get, not just through my hips, but through my back, and of course onto my knees. So again, I would say this is a tough pose. It's not a pose that people enjoy. I don't enjoy it myself, but I really do see the benefits of doing this pose. Now, when your 3 minutes are up, come back, just push yourself forward a bit, maybe bring your hands so you're straight, and then bring your knees bit for bit back up so you're in what's called tabletop. And just as a counter pose, just for a couple of minutes, there are two things you can do here. One of them is just to move backwards and forwards, just to release what you've been doing. The other one is you can push yourself in to child pose all the way down. Maybe rest your head to one side or the other, or put it solid down there. And again, this is a lovely, lovely stretch for the whole, not just your hips. The hips I'm stretching here, you can see the lower back, the upper back, the shoulders. Super, super nice pose. You can stay into for as long as you like. Now, the third pose is called shoelace, and to be honest with you, it's again a pose I really don't like, but it's a super hip opening pose. Now, if you're over 50, you could well be that you're still very, very supple, you can still very, very easily move around. But often you're not, and I particularly aren't. So one way of doing shoelace pose that I find much easier is, again, either with a block, or in this case, I'm going to sit on a bolster. So I can sit on the bolster with the end pointing forwards. So now I'm sitting upright, so it's easier for me to come down. So the right-hand side, I bring my right knee down like this. So I've got the groin. I can feel the groin just twitching a bit now. My foot is comfortable on the floor. And then I'm going to take my left leg and, if you like, fold it over to my right leg. So you see I have what's called a shoelace effect. And then as I push down here, just gently down so I can feel the pressure, feel the edge. I can feel it here in the gluteus muscles. I'm pushing and stretching the outside of my left hip. I'm pushing and stretching the backside here. I'm stretching a little bit on the right hip. And again, this is a pose I would go into for, let's say, 3 minutes. I'm not actually taking the time. I'm taking the time, but I'm not registering the time. And I can feel it now just here, and I can feel the good it's doing me. So the third part about Yin Yoga is to find stillness. And there are two ways to find that stillness. The first is by doing this, by staying still. As soon as you jump out, jump in, jump out of a pose, you're losing that long-held stretch. And when you lose the long-held stretch, you lose the release. And it's just this release, the so-called myofascial release, bit for bit, millimeter for millimeter, that you're stretching and strengthening your tendons and your ligaments. And when you're ready, come back up to sitting, just drag your leg across maybe, bring this leg back to up together. So now I have my legs together here, and maybe just slide down a bit. And if I could just look at my feet, just by rolling them from side to side to side to side, I can just open my hips a little bit more, and I'm countering the effects of what I've just been doing with my right leg in shoelace. Now to do the left leg in shoelace, it's the same thing. I bring my left leg down, and I notice that here I can feel it a bit in my knee. I have a slight problem with this knee that's coming, and by doing this pose, actually, I'm stretching out, again, the tendons into the knee, which means that they're opening up, and it's going to mean less pain, hopefully, because I'm stretching out those knee muscles. I bring this foot across again, and if I can then lean back down, and I'm feeling it here in this side now of my hip. I'm feeling it down the IT band, which is running here, and I'm feeling it just in the outside of my knee. And I can feel, if I were to stay here, the other part about finding stillness is stillness in your breath, to breathe nice and deeply. Let the energy flow down to my knee. And as they say, where your breath goes, the energy flows. So I try to use my breath and target the knee and let it just open out. Let the hips open out, slowly but surely, softer but softer. And then you say, okay, so what happens if I can't bring my knee down? Which, again, a lot of us, if we have problems with our knees, we're not going to be able to do that. So what to do? Easy way, again, I'm staying on my bolster. I could do this way, because then I can show sitting on a mat. Is to leave that left leg straight. And then I can just bring this round here, my right leg around here, and I'm bending forward again. And this is called half shoelace. For obvious reasons, I'm only doing half of the pose. But again, this is super good because I'm stretching out, in this case, I stretch out the hamstring, I'm stretching out the calf muscle, and if I flex my foot slightly, I'm stretching out that too. And again, find my edge. This is my edge here. At no point forcing. If you force this, what you'll do is you'll simply tense your muscles. And if your muscles stay tense, there's no way you can relax. If you can't relax the muscle, it can't help strengthen the tendons and the ligaments, which is what you're actually targeting in Yin Yoga. And when you've done your 3 minutes, again, come back up again. And I love to do this hip opener that we started with, which is window wipers. So just remove the block, come back down, and then let my knees just come together, and just as a final couple of minutes, just to one side and the other, just to stretch out nice and deep. How far can you go down? Do the legs go down a little bit further every time? And again, when I'm ready, roll over to the right, use the right hand to push myself up, and that is the perfect 15-minute fix to make sure our hips feel an awful lot happier. Hope you enjoyed this, and if you're looking for more 15-minute fixes or any other kind of things, you'll find them in my book, Yin Yoga 50+, especially for adults who are, strangely enough, over 50, and in my case, well over 60 and just pushing 70. Have a great day.